Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This morning's learning is sponsored by Jean Herskovitz in memory of her father, Chaim Avraham ben Ephraim Fischel. Should be a schus for his neshama. Okay, picking up with chapter 32, verse 4. Again, we'll discuss a little bit more of this very famous pasuk. Hatsur tamim palo kichol drachav mishpat. The rock, his work is perfect. All of his ways are just. Kel emunah v'yein avel tzadik v'yasharhu. He is a faithful God. There is no iniquity. He is righteous and just. We discussed one aspect of this pasuk last time. I just want to share with you a kliyakar. Kliyakar on pasuk Dalet. Hatsur tamim palo mevur k'derech she'amar Shlomo asher hu Elokim asa es ha'adam yashar v'hema b'cheshbonos rabim. Pasuk Koheles says, Shlomo Melech says about people, that God made man, that humanity should be able to be straight. But human beings have a way of looking for many calculations. What does that mean? So this the pasuk in Koheles says the Kliyakar is a very important pasuk because a person might very well misunderstand. You know, a person sitting there on Yom Kippur, and a person says, "Well, I'm not supposed to be jealous of people. I'm not supposed to pursue desires." Well, obviously, God didn't do a good job with me because I feel jealousy and I feel desires. So it's not my fault; it's the manufacturer's problem. Right? That's what a person might say. So he says that's what Shlomo Melech is saying in the pasuk. Understand, God made you straight. The off-road paths that you go are because you've come up with all kinds of calculations. Okay, it's you. It's not God. And by the way, just to state the obvious, God created us with these inclinations to do these different things because God wants to challenge us and God wants us to grow. But he also created us with the ability to overcome these desires. It's a pasuk that we even have in Tehillim. We try to say to God, recognize our shortcomings. Remember, we're dust. By Eov, it says, remember, you made me like this physical mass. Maybe the sinner will say it's not the sinner's fault, it's God's fault. So Kliyakar says that's what this pasuk that we have in the parasha is also speaking about. Ella, Hatsur asher yatzar es ha'adam b'chachma, the rock that created the man with tremendous wisdom, tamim palo, he was made, his work is pure. Ki ein sayer kelokenu. It certainly evokes many of the images that we have in the Piyutim from Yom Kippur. There's no maker, there's no creator like God. V'chol pu'ulaso tamim below chisaron. Tamim palo, everything that he did is perfect. V'amofi salzeh, kichol drachav mishpat. And the proof is that all of his ways are just. Vilu haya nemchaser mitzad yitziraso, im kain, lo haya bal b'chira, kimuchrach b'masav, v'lo haya min aroi, lavo b'mishpat al-masav. It wouldn't be fair if we couldn't do any better, if we had no control of what we did or didn't do. It wouldn't be fair for God to judge us. It wouldn't be fair for God to punish us. It wouldn't be fair for God to call us to task. And we say that everything that he does is fair. We accept that God is just and fair because he's fair, he's reliable. We see that people who are righteous get rewarded by God in this world. And there's not falsehood that he also gives what the wicked deserve. So it must all be fair. So if it's all fair, the only way to understand it is it's not that it's not my fault because that's how God made me. No, God made us perfectly. But the perfection is that we should have temptations. But the perfection also is that we should have the ability to overcome those temptations. That's how he's understanding the pasuk. Okay, the next verse is a little tricky. Verse 5. Shiches lo banav mumam. It has been destructive to him not his children their blemishes. Dor ikesh ufsal tol, a stubborn and wayward going nation. So clearly the point of the pasuk is something about when we do bad things, it's our fault, which certainly fits with what the Kli Yakar said in the previous pasuk, but just difficult to piece together this pasuk, like what the pasuk is even saying exactly. So Orach Chaim on pasuk Hey, Shiches lo banav, Perish, Kishemashchisim darkam, when the people act in an incorrect manner, Gormim ra la'atzmam, they're causing ill to themselves. Uma ra gormim, what's so bad that we do when we sin? We're making it lo banav, that we're no longer the children of God. Perish, she'enem nikroim b'nei kelchai, that when we sin, we're no longer looked at as the children of the living God. Ka'omrim zal, she Yisrael, holchim b'darko shemakom nikroim banim, she'en holchim nikroim avadim. Again, evokes memories of parts of the Yom Kippur davening. Actually, Rosh Hashanah davening. Im kivanim, im kavadim, right? Will you look at us as children or will you look at us as servants? What's that about? So Chaim presumably would say it fits into this pasuk, that when we sin, the greatest punishment of sinning is that in God's eyes, we're not acting like his children anymore. So we're just his servants, we're not his children. That's how he's understanding the first part of the pasuk. The last Orach Chaim on this pasuk, I think it's just the second Orach Chaim, Dori Keshuv Saltol. Like, what are these two different terms of critical adjectives about the Jewish people? Shemiya Ikesh Levad Divrei Torah Tashim Tasim Hama Akshim Lemishor. If it was only that we were stubborn, right, then Torah could get us back on the straight and narrow. Umigaram Lazesh Nishchas Hayoso Ikesh Ufsalto. It's a double whammy. Not only are we stubborn, but we're this other thing also. Perish Mischazek Ba'akshuso. Saltoli says means that we hold tightly onto our stubbornness. Kasher Einenu Roos Bedoros Halalu Mine Apikursas Derech Ikesh Kshadam Miyashir Kshosayim Himischazkim Ba'orchos Ikshim Kashim. He's explaining Ikesh as being kind of turning off the path, and Saltol meaning stubborn in keeping off the path. He says if it was only that we turned off the path, it wouldn't be so bad. We make mistakes. So we'd have the words of Torah, and Torah would put us back on the straight and narrow, and that'd be fine. But the problem is not only that we make mistakes, it's basically that we can't admit that when we make mistakes. And that's the issue over there. Okay, so that's how the Orach Chaim explains that pasuk. Let's go on to verse 7. I promise we're not going to go pasuk by pasuk through the whole parsha, even though it is a short parsha, but verse 7. This is also a frequently quoted pasuk. Zechor Yemos Olam. Remember the days of the world. Remember world history. Binu Shno Stor Vador. Reflect on the years through the generations. Shal Avicha v'Yagedcha. Ask your father, and he'll tell you. Zkenecha v'Yomru. Ask your elders, and they'll explain it to you. And it talks about the special relationship between God and the Jewish people. It's a very interesting introductory phrase here. See this sworn on pasuk Zayin. Zechor Yemos Olam. Achar shehishli makdamas hashira. The first 6 psukim were the introduction to this song. Asher bahu dia, that through which it has been conveyed. Sha'amechoven mimanu hulahagid sidkas akel yisala. We understand from the first 6 psukim that we're trying to speak of the righteousness of God. Shukel emunah lehetiv laosei ritzono. That he is a God of faith and he does well for those who do his wishes. Uvarech v'lo yeshivena. He will bless the people and he will not retract from the blessing. Vein avel b'midas dino negdam. And there's no unfairness in his judgment of the Jewish people. Ho'il Moshe be'er zeh ba'agaras ha'avar v'ha'asit. So now Moshe kind of sets the topic ideas, the broad introductory ideas. That God is perfect, that God is just. Now he wants to document it from both the past and the future. Lodia Rishona, first he wants to convey Kama Haisa Kavanas Akel Yisbarach Lahasik Zeatachlis Bechol Aminu Enoshi Bimos Olam Mishno Storvador. How much it has been the will of God to convey his image of the world through previous years and generations. And how, when that doesn't happen, God has come to do great things to bring the Jewish people up to great levels. In other words, when the nations of the world haven't conducted themselves appropriately, so God brings the Jewish people up very high. Like God will do in the end of days with the remnants who call out to God. Shenis, so that's one point. Shenis, second point. It's important to understand that God gave the Jewish people a special place to serve him with great joy, with remarkable abundance. And when the Jews had been given this great gift by God of Beis Hamikdash and Yerushalayim, etc., they paid good with bad. Kavonaso im kol eila, ein safek shu roy laonesh nishmatz. And a person who sinned in this way certainly deserves a punishment. So the first point is that God has a goal, and he tries to bring the whole world there, and at the very least, he tries to bring the Jewish people there. The second point is that God has given the Jewish people a remarkable gift, but if they don't conduct themselves appropriately, they lose that gift. Shlish is the third point. Shabagol del avonom, through the magnitude of their sins, naflu b'michmore rishoyim, they fell into the trap of the wicked. Vayuru'uyim lekilyon charutz, and they deserved great destruction from God. Lulei chilul Hashem shamana miseh. Would it not be that there'd be a great desecration of God if God would annihilate the Jewish people? Revius, the fourth point. Hodiasiba asher beglala tilahem geula b'achros hayamim. He teaches them what will be the means of bringing the ultimate redemption. Chamish's fifth point. He talks about the fact that God will bring redemption and vengeance against his enemies. And this is the general summary of what happens in the rest of the Parsha, Parshas Hasinu. So it's an interesting Sforno. The Sforno's point is that Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to lay out right now how much the principles that have been said in the first psukim we see from past experiences of Klal Yisrael, and to lay out a path for what will be in the future. So we spoke this morning about a few psukim, Hatzur Tzamim Palo, the Shiches Lo Banav, and Dorokeshuv Saltol, and we got this like general guide from the Sforno as to the themes brought out in this parsha.